Time now to take a look at what's grabbing headlines here in the French papers. Solange Moujon is with us in studio. Morning, Solange.
Morning.
Going to start, I believe, with a story in one of the French dailies about France's really biggest honour, the French Légion d'honneur.
Yeah, indeed. La Légion d'honneur is France's highest honour, and for Emmanuel Macron, it is given way too much. The Figaro this morning went with the headline, Macron imposes new rules for the Légion d'honneur. Today, the French president will be presenting a plan to his ministers to detail about how he wants to clean up the rules about the coveted the medal and how it's given. But first, let me give you a little bit of backstory about the Légion d'honneur. It was created by Napoleon in 1802, and it's generally bestowed on laureates at the Élysée Palace. There are some people, such as high-ranking military personnel, ex-ambassadors, politicians, who almost get it automatically, which means there are a lot of people who receive it. And to give you some numbers, Valéry Giscard d'Estaing bestowed it on 32,000 people in his 7 years as president. Even recently, in the first 5 months of 2017, which is before Emmanuel Macron became president, 731 people were given the honor. Now, it can be given to French nationals and to foreigners. Sometimes it's celebrities, sometimes it's politicians or unknown citizens who the government says they want to honor for their work.
I guess less is more when you're giving value to that honour. Le Figaro says it is nonetheless a very important symbol for Emmanuel Macron, and that's what really he wants to protect, I guess.
Exactly. Le Figaro explains that Emmanuel Macron thinks the Légion d'honneur has lost some of its sparkle and its uniqueness because it's given so much. Already, he's drastically cut the number of times he's given it. He's only held one ceremony for the Légion d'honneur, and he gave it to 101 people, 51 of whom are women. And Le Figaro says that Macron now is presenting a plan to sort of diversify the profiles of people who will receive it. He wants to bolster a nomination system where any old person can, if they have enough signatures of other citizens, nominate people, rather than just have government officials nominate who they think should hold the honor. The paper says that above all, Macron wants to ensure that the Légion d'honneur remains something exceptional, and that the surest way to do that, of course, is to make it rare.
Yeah, I like the idea that civil society nominates people.
Me too.
That appeals, I have to say. But let's move on and look now at how the French media are covering and reacting to the latest terror attack, the one in New York.
Yeah, Libération this morning went with the headline, Daesh after Daesh. Now, Daesh is the term that we use in France for the Islamic State group. The paper says that regardless of the fact that the caliphate has collapsed in Syria and Iraq, it is still part of our daily lives and our daily fears. In their editorial, Libération, which is a left-leaning paper, argues that the attack in New York is the perfect example of how Donald Trump's desire for tougher immigration policies will not work. The assailant was from Uzbekistan, which was not on the list of countries that Trump has blocked from its citizens from entry into the U.S. The editorial also goes into how in France, the decision to transform some of the state of emergency rules into law, how that will be as ineffective as Trump's policies. Now, Libération argues that Emmanuel Macron's new security law just hurts civil liberties, and that to be effective against terrorist attacks and against the Islamic State group, the French government needs to accept that we will always be vulnerable. Libération says the important thing to do is to follow France's established laws and its justice system, and that very system that Libération says the jihadists want to destroy.
Yeah, the debate between civil liberties and security is going to rumble on, I imagine, for quite some time. Very quickly, Solange, to finish up, I believe you have an article to get us in the holiday season already.
I do. Chestnuts are a staple in France on French tables during the fall and at Christmas time, and for many of them it's a sign that cold weather has come. Cellars outside, you can smell chestnuts and everything. And also sugary chestnuts are given as treats after meals for the holiday. But this year they may not be as prevalent. Le Parisien explains that chestnuts will be few and far between, and the ones that we are going to see are going to be small. Well, that's because of a very dry October. The lack of rainfall has kept the nuts from plumping up, and on top of that, there's a bee-like bug that has been eating them. which means that chestnuts this year are going to be expensive, around 10 euros a kilo. But Le Parisien explains that there is an upside, that this year's harvest will be particularly tasty.
Oh, I've been walking through a forest near where I live, and I literally walk over them. I'll start collecting them, Solange. Thanks so much for that. A review of the French paper. It's time for us now to take a very quick break, but we're back in just a few minutes, so do stay with us if you can.